Rajesh, Elaine, distinguished judges, business representatives, ladies and gentlemen, it really is a pleasure for me to be joining you again this year to open Asia's Sustainability Reporting Awards and Asia Integrated Reporting Awards. I really hope that the next time we do this, we can be doing it again in person, where we can spend even more time celebrating the fantastic results that you're going to be showcasing through the awards. I feel like each time I do this, I say, this year, the awards come at a really important moment, but I really think that is true this year. I think I have noticed so much in my nearly 3 years here in Singapore, how increasingly every conversation I am having has an element around sustainability within it, and how I am feeling more and more strongly that companies are utterly convinced that they need to be able to go on their own sustainability journey, without which they won't be able to continue to attract investments and consumers. But many of them will also be scratching their heads and wondering exactly how they do it. And one of the things that I love about the awards and about bringing attention to reporting is that within that reporting, you will be able to see what other companies are really thinking about tackling and the kind of choices and decisions that they are making. When I spoke to you last year, of course, the UK was preparing to host the 26th UN conferences of the parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, or COP26 for short, in Glasgow in the UK. We had seen the report from the UN's panel of scientists, whose job it is to advise governments around the world of the impact of our own actions. And this had set out really starkly how urgent the need for action was. I think at the time, natural disasters were also sweeping Europe, the Americas, and also this region, causing devastation and loss of life, exacerbated, science told us, by global warming. In short, we were anxious about the ability of our leaders to recognise the momentous change necessary at a pivotal moment in history. And I'm proud that UK COP26 presidency worked so hard to ensure that the Glasgow Climate Pact took us forward in a way that we so desperately needed as a global community. The progress in this region in particular was really exciting to watch. In 2020, when we took on the task of hosting COP26, this was a region of heavy coal use with high growth, which was brilliant to see high growth, but it was fueled by high energy use and carbon intensity. There was not a single commitment in place to get us on track with the Paris Agreement. But by the end of COP26, 75% of Southeast Asia's GDP was covered by commitments to reach net zero by mid-century. And that means that 83% of the region's emissions should be stopped in the next 30 years. Commitments to end coal, which was a bit of a first at a COP, to even use the word in the final statement, were made by the biggest emitters, as were declarations to halt and reverse deforestation in this region of abundant, miraculous biodiversity and nature. The Independent Climate Action Tracker modelled that if the commitments made at the conference were all fully implemented, we will peak temperature levels at 1.8 degrees above pre-industrial levels. In short, we had collectively kept the 1.5 degree goal alive. But as Alex Sharma, the UK's COP president, said as he summed up late in the evening on the 12th of November last year, himself visibly exhausted by the intensity of the vital negotiations, the 1.5 degree goal was alive, but its pulse was weak. Alok Sharma said that because while we have secured these important strategic commitments, setting the political direction we desperately needed to deal with the climate crisis, short-term implementation remains dangerously misaligned with that ambition. The Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change's report last month spoke of the impact that human beings have had on the planet, which is now irreversible, with temperatures already around 1.1 degrees above 1900 levels. For countries in this region, with 6 of the world's top 25 climate risk-affected large economies already suffering from weather-related disasters each year, this is a really worrying point. But the report also makes clear how every fraction of a degree matters. It says scientists have a high degree of confidence that even a temporary overshoot of 1.5 degrees centigrade means more risk of compounded effects on our ecosystem and of being unable to ever return to the natural balance we currently enjoy. So that is why we as a country will not step back from leading on climate ambition throughout the rest of our COP presidency year during 2022. We'll continue to push hard for ambition from major emitters to come forward with new commitments that align with 1.5 degrees by the end of this year. For donor countries to level up their contribution towards the transition in developing countries, fulfilling their promise to reach $100 billion a year that the OECD projects will be achieved by 2023, and to fulfill the bold commitments by 141 countries representing over 90% of the world's forests to halt and reverse deforestation this decade. This really is the year to deliver on the promises made at Glasgow. And that's why being here alongside you and the companies that are working so hard to tell the story of their own transition and their own sustainability is a really important and precious moment. At the heart of this earnest focus by the UK, which will outlive our COP presidency and remain our #1 international priority for the foreseeable future, is the sense not just of meeting the challenge, but also of opportunity and optimism. While we teeter close to dangerous temperature rises, the weight of momentum is moving in the opposite direction. We're passing the tipping point of positive action to mitigate climate impact and seeing the pace of that change accelerating, including in the private sector, in the way that I set out at the start of my remarks. Last year, when I talked to you about 20% of FTSE 100 companies committing to decarbonise by 2050. Today, that figure is 70%. So we've gone during this period from 20% of FTSE 100 companies committing to 70%. That's a really remarkable shift in just 1 year. The economics are increasingly with us, as last year showed. The World Bank said that for every $1 spent on adapting to climate change, we'd see a 4-fold payback in economic benefits, from reduced costs to healthcare, to resilient infrastructure, and to livelihoods. The IEA said that solar PV was now the cheapest form of energy in history. So if you're a business looking to compete in a globalized supply chain, you'll be at a disadvantage on your energy costs if you're not looking at how to get your net zero electrons, as well as having a client base who will expect sustainability as a norm. Glasgow also saw financial institutions with over 130 trillion US dollar assets under management committed to ensuring that all scopes of their emissions were net zero by 2050. That capital is now looking for clean investment opportunities, decreasing the cost of finance for firms with sustainable business models. And to be able to prove that you've got sustainable business models, of course, you need to prove within your sustainability reporting that you're on the right track. The unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine has, of course, driven fossil fuel prices even higher, making those economics even starker than they already were. And the UK, like other G7 countries, is committed to reducing its reliance on Russian oil and gas, including by accelerating the shift to renewables. Over recent weeks, we've seen some big changes here in the region, including in Singapore, as governments begin to reopen their economies and movement within their economies. We felt like after many false dawns, perhaps we are finally emerging into what we might call a post-pandemic world. I always feel like I need to touch wood at this point. Like many of you, I felt a bit bunkered down and weathered a storm, and we've weathered a storm together, achieving something momentous with global cooperation in the face of a crisis. Glasgow showed that same spirit of collective action in the face of a crisis. And though the two were different in many ways, we can take from them a common perception that we can solve them together across national borders and across sectors. I want to thank you all as members of the business community across Asia for your vision. You have committed to this transition for many years. Some of you have joined the journey more recently. But increasingly, the ability of corporates to learn from each other is really important in helping everybody achieve their climate goals. You've recognised that leadership which is necessary in getting us towards the progress we saw in Glasgow. So these awards are really important now and as we head on the next stage of our sustainability journey. I encourage you to celebrate peers. We'll be all clapping from the sidelines as the awards are announced, and to support each other with your learning. Most importantly, I encourage you to reach out to those that are not yet in this room. We need more and more people to feel that this is an important award ceremony and important moment to celebrate and share learning. Use your leadership to develop the change that we need, including working with organisations like our own as we try and push ahead even more quickly. Use your voice with governments to push for more ambition. I know that behind the Singapore government's really striking decisions around things like how fast to increase carbon tax, there were corporates saying, we need you to go faster on this. We need you to show the way so that we have the impetus to decarbonise and to have that kind of conversation with our investors. Your voice is really, really important with investors, with other corporates and with governments. Build on and insist on action to implement the promises of Glasgow. As I've said, we in the UK government will, and we need to keep all of ourselves, all of this coalition honest as we go along the way. We've got an opportunity, of course, to build back better as we emerge from the pandemic. If we continue to work together, exhibiting the leadership that your winners tonight already have, I'm confident that 2022 will be a greener, healthier, safer and more prosperous year than 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you, High Commissioner. We really miss Eden Hall, High Commissioner, and we really hope to be back there, maybe the next event.
I can't wait to get you all back. I'm just absolutely waiting to have more people in Eden Hall. It misses all of you too.
Yeah, we really looking forward to that. And we also commend UK government's leadership on several fronts. It's not just climate change, but gender equality and a host of other issues. And especially we have seen the leadership, especially in the last 2 years, over climate change leading up to COP26. And what a dramatic change and what a momentum that we have started seeing after COP26. Also in the area of reporting. So we have a new International Sustainability Standards Board, which was announced at COP26. So a lot has happened in Glasgow. And I think what we are seeing now, whether it's Singapore government's commitment to enhancing the aspiration to be net zero by mid-century, or last year's Singapore Green Plan, UK government's leadership, I think all these are very positive signals. And the companies, I think, understand that they now have full support from regulators and policymakers. And now there is the right environment for them to take these actions. And of course, investors also understand that, and they are taking a big interest. Elaine?
Yeah, I think it's, thank you, Kara, for taking us through that journey over the past year. It's just incredible when you think, how much has happened, and the pace of change is just incredible. And also, as everybody knows on the reporting side, it's just, super dynamic. And I also agree with Rajesh that the UK has really done some tremendous work in bringing everybody together. And I think a couple of things that you said, stood out for me. I think, of course, we all talk about the gloom and doom and the dangers and the risks and the threats, but you also mentioned the opportunity and the optimism. And I think, at the end of the day, we're all about creating a better world for all of us. And that should be a good thing, and we should feel good about it, and we should do it in a spirit of optimism and excitement. And that's how I also look at reporting. A lot of people over the years, reporting, boring, no one reason, but really working on reporting and looking at reports is a fun thing, and it shows how this energy and determination and passion is alive in so many companies and with so many teams and leaders in those companies. And that brings me also to another point which you mentioned, and that is using reporting to help each other, to show the journey that you're on, and as you said, support each other with your learning. I think that's one of the big benefits of sustainability reporting, which almost never gets mentioned. Everybody learns from reporting. Reports are a wealth of information about industry, about sectors, about climate change, about all sorts of aspects of human interaction. And by doing that well, you're not only supporting your own journey, but you're supporting the journey of so many others. So I really appreciated that thought as well. And there's lots more I could say, but I think we probably better get back to the schedule, Rajesh. So thank you. That was really insightful.
Thank you. Thank you again, High Commissioner.